Hello everyone, welcome to the Crime Documentary Files channel. Today, we are going to discuss a case involving a woman who epitomizes the concept of a femme fatale. Not only did she torment her two husbands to the point where they wished they were dead, but she also went so far as to commit murder to achieve her goals and later used lies to evade justice. She is Tracy Rector, dubbed by the media as the most dangerous woman. Lee Town is a small town in Love County, Washington, with a population of less than 1,000. In 1998, a couple moved to this town with their children. The wife, Tracy, was beautiful, graceful, and elegant in her speech. The husband, Michael, was a successful Australian businessman, handsome and strong. Their 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, were very beautiful and lovely, making them the model of an enviable family. However, on the night of December 13, 2001, intense gunshots suddenly erupted from the large house where this family lived. The local police received a call from Tracy, the female head of the household, who spoke in a hoarse voice. She said that intruders had broken into their house and she had used a gun in self-defense to protect her children. The police did not delay and quickly dispatched several patrol cars to Tracy's house. What they saw was a chaotic and tragic scene. Tracy was hiding in a corner of the room with her 3 children, while a young man lay face down on the floor with gunshot wounds, no longer breathing or with a pulse. Tracy had a red mark on her neck and said she was having trouble breathing, so she was sent to the hospital. The police examined the deceased at the scene and confirmed he was a 20-year-old man named Dustin, who was Tracy's neighbor. Was he the intruder Tracy mentioned on the phone? With this question in mind, the police went to the hospital. After examining Tracy, the doctors found that she was not seriously injured. Tracy then recounted what happened that night from her hospital bed. According to her, her husband Michael was away on a business trip that day. In the evening, she let her 2 sons watch TV in the living room while she bathed her youngest daughter in the bathroom. At that moment, she heard the door open and thought it was Michael coming home early. But then she heard the boys screaming, realizing something was wrong. She came out of the bathroom to see 2 strange men breaking into the house. In panic, she pushed her 3 children into a bedroom, but couldn't get in herself before the intruders grabbed her by the hair and dragged her to the ground. Tracy said she felt these 2 men were targeting her because they did not ask about valuables, but instead immediately used a pair of stockings to strangle her. She lost consciousness, but instinctively felt her children were in danger, so she woke up to hear the intruders trying to break into the bedroom where the children were hiding. Summoning her courage, she crawled to the gun cabinet, despite her severe nearsightedness and difficulty opening the combination lock. She managed to retrieve 2 handguns and, with 1 in each hand, fired a total of 9 shots at the 2 intruders. One intruder, Dustin, was shot dead on the spot, while the other fled. According to Tracy, she was a heroic mother fighting the intruders to protect her family, and Dustin's death was his own fault. However, the police were skeptical of Tracy's account because many details at the scene suggested that this was not just a simple case of home invasion and self-defense. Firstly, the deceased Dustin was a gentle 20-year-old who had always behaved well and did not seem capable of such a heinous crime. He lived nearby with his mother and often helped Tracy's family with household chores, maintaining a good relationship with them. Dustin's mother, upon seeing a large number of police cars at Tracy's house and finding her son dead, broke down in tears. She told the police that Tracy had called that evening asking Dustin to come over to help fix a computer, and she couldn't understand why he ended up dead. The police's doubts grew after Dustin's autopsy. Tracy claimed she fired 9 shots with 2 guns, and Dustin indeed had 9 gunshot wounds. However, Tracy was severely nearsighted and said she had difficulty opening the gun cabinet's lock without her glasses. How could she have fired so accurately without her glasses, hitting Dustin with every shot? Moreover, 3 of the bullets entered the back of Dustin's head, which contradicted Tracy's account of their positions during the incident. Additionally, Tracy's statements were inconsistent. Initially, she said she saw the second intruder and described his appearance to the police. But later, she claimed the second intruder wore a ski mask, so she couldn't see his face. The police also found no evidence, such as fingerprints, to suggest a second intruder was present. Given these inconsistencies, the police decided not to hastily conclude that this was a case of self-defense. The youngest daughter, only 1 year old, and the second son, only 3, were too young to speak clearly, leaving only the 11-year-old eldest son, Boss, to be questioned. He confirmed his mother's story, saying she killed Dustin in self-defense. However, the police felt his tone seemed rehearsed, as if he were repeating his mother's words rather than speaking naturally. Thus, they also doubted the reliability of his testimony. Ultimately, due to these numerous doubts, the police did not close the case and continued to state publicly that they were conducting further investigations. However, Tracy soon disclosed her story to the local newspaper, and the media, eager for such a juicy piece of news, quickly built up her image as a heroic mother through numerous interviews and talk shows. Consequently, she won the custody battle for her eldest son, Bert, against her ex-husband, John Peetman III. Before marrying her current husband, Australian businessman Michael Robert, Tracy had been married to John Peetman III, and Bert was their child. After winning Bert's custody, Tracy went back to the police, claiming that Dustin was sent by her ex-husband John to kill her. At this point, everyone must be wondering what kind of deep-seated grievances existed between Tracy and her ex-husband that led to such deadly consequences. So, let's rewind to the time when they first met. Tracy was born in 1966. She was a beautiful, intelligent girl who excelled academically. In 1987, she received a scholarship and entered medical school, where she quickly met John, then a senior. John later recalled that Tracy might have thoroughly investigated his interests, because during their relationship, she perfectly catered to his idea of a soulmate. For instance, knowing that John loved animals, Tracy adopted several cats and dogs as pets, which quickly made John fall deeply in love with her. In 1988, John graduated from college and became a successful plastic surgeon, and the two of them officially got married. However, shortly after the wedding, John began to feel that Tracy was changing, gradually moving away from his ideal image of a goddess. 1 year after their marriage, John's parents, who lived nearby, discovered that their credit cards were missing and had been used to purchase goods worth thousands of dollars. The police investigation revealed that Tracy was the one who had stolen and used the credit cards. Despite his parents' accusations, John firmly stood by his wife, leading to a complete fallout with his parents and friends. To quickly pay off their mortgage and provide Tracy with a stable home, John became a workaholic, working over 100 hours a week. However, the long hours caused a rift between the couple, leading to frequent arguments. During one intense argument, Tracy pulled out a gun and pointed it at John, who was so frightened that he ran out of the room. A gunshot rang out, and Tracy emerged, dazed, saying she had tried to commit suicide but failed. Neighbors, hearing the gunshot, called the police, and Tracy was charged with reckless discharge of a firearm. She was eventually sent to a psychiatric hospital for 6 months of mandatory treatment. After her release, their relationship seemed to improve, and in 1990, they had their son, Bert. However, the birth of their child couldn't save their marriage, and John felt that Tracy's affection for him had completely cooled. Not long after, John discovered that Tracy had secretly increased his life insurance policy's coverage. Remembering the incident when Tracy had pointed a gun at him, John felt a chill run down his spine. He hired a private investigator to look into his wife's activities, and the results were shocking. The investigator brought back dozens of photos showing Tracy in intimate relationships with several men. Devastated, John made one last attempt to save the marriage by moving the family to Chicago, hoping that a new environment would help Tracy sever ties with those men and mend their relationship. During the move, Tracy did something that further broke John's heart. They couldn't keep pets in their new apartment, so Tracy volunteered to find new homes for their 3 dogs and 4 cats. However, John later discovered that she had sold them all to an animal testing laboratory, revealing her cold-heartedness. Although they moved to a new city and Tracy initially appeared more affectionate towards John, he never fully relaxed and continued to have her followed by the private investigator. One day, a few weeks later, John received a call from Tracy during his lunch break, asking him to come home as she had something important to discuss. Without thinking much of it, John even took the afternoon off to spend time with her. He informed the private investigator that he wouldn't need to follow her that afternoon. Surprisingly, the investigator immediately warned John not to go home. The investigator was tailing Tracy and saw her leaving the city, driving towards the suburbs, making it impossible for her to be home at the agreed time. Realizing the danger, John broke into a cold sweat and didn't go home that day. Instead, he filed for divorce through his lawyer. In court, Tracy accused John of sexually abusing their 3-year-old son, Bert, but she had no evidence to support her claim. Meanwhile, John's lawyer discovered evidence that Tracy had forged John's signature to purchase a large life insurance policy. The grueling divorce case dragged on until 1996. Despite John's best efforts, Tracy ultimately won custody of Bert and most of their assets. Additionally, John had to pay thousands of dollars in monthly child support. Shortly after the divorce, Tracy married her current husband, Australian businessman Michael Robert. Tracy and Michael's relationship also had a dramatic beginning. In 1996, just before her official divorce from her ex-husband, Tracy met Michael in an online chat room. They hit it off quickly, and soon after Tracy's divorce, Michael flew from Australia to the United States to meet her. After spending 18 days together, they got married in a whirlwind romance. Like John, Michael believed Tracy was his soulmate, but his experience mirrored John's. Shortly after their marriage, Tracy dropped her facade and began to behave freely. She not only continued her extramarital relationships, but also took some of her lovers to court, accusing them of sexual assault and demanding large settlements. These actions caused Michael great distress as their scandalous lawsuits became widely known. 2 years later, in an attempt to save their marriage, Michael made a decision similar to John's. They moved. In 1998, Michael relocated his family, including Tracy and her son Bert, to a small town in Washington. There, they started an IT business together, and their relationship seemed to stabilize. Their first son was born shortly after the move, followed by a daughter in 2000. Everything appeared to be improving, but Tracy's ex-husband, John, continued his efforts to regain custody of Bert. In late 2001, just before the second custody battle for Bert was set to begin, Tracy experienced the dramatic incident we mentioned at the beginning of our program. She fought off and killed an intruder in her home. Tracy became a media darling, hailed as a heroic mother, and she won custody of Bert. She later told the police that the intruders were hired to kill her, and she firmly believed that her ex-husband, John, was behind the plot. The police, however, remained skeptical of her story. At the time of the incident, Michael was away on a business trip. He rushed home upon hearing the news and was shocked to learn that one of the intruders was Dustin, a close friend who had been like a brother to him. Despite this shock, Michael believed his wife's story without question, and even offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to the capture of the other intruder Tracy claimed had escaped. However, no new leads emerged. As time passed, things calmed down, but Tracy's habit of having affairs resurfaced, leading to repeated arguments. In her anger, Tracy exhibited alarming behavior. She smashed furniture, kicked holes in the walls, and even drugged Michael once, tying him up and threatening to suffocate him with a plastic bag before relenting after his desperate pleas. Michael sought refuge at the police station multiple times. By the end of 2004, Michael filed for divorce. The ensuing divorce proceedings were as chaotic as Tracy's previous ones. She accused Michael of being abusive and even claimed he was behind the 2001 home invasion based on his alleged sleep-talking confessions. The police dismissed her accusations as baseless. The contentious divorce dragged on until late 2007. Tracy won custody of their two younger children and moved with them to Nebraska, along with a significant portion of the couple's assets. Despite his heartbreak, Michael couldn't bear to be separated from his children and also moved to Nebraska to stay close to them, much to Tracy's displeasure. By then, Tracy had legally changed her name to Sophia Edwards and was trying to reinvent herself as a wealthy heiress in the local high society. In an attempt to get Michael out of her life, Tracy accused him of placing a photo of Dustin, the intruder she killed, in her car to intimidate her. The police investigated but found no evidence to support her claim. Tracy's credibility was further undermined by her previous welfare fraud conviction. The unresolved issue at the heart of the story was Tracy's shooting of Dustin. Dustin's family vehemently denied the notion that he was a home invader. They described him as shy and gentle, incapable of such a crime. On the day of the incident, Tracy had invited Dustin over to fix her computer. Dustin's parents, devastated by his death and the media's portrayal of him as a criminal, divorced. Dustin's father later committed suicide at his son's grave on Thanksgiving Day 2002. In 2003, Dustin's mother, Mona, filed a civil lawsuit against Tracy for wrongful death, but she withdrew the suit in 2005. She claimed the police had asked her to drop it to avoid interfering with their ongoing investigation, suspecting that Dustin's death was indeed a murder rather than self-defense. The police's skepticism about Tracy's story stemmed from several inconsistencies. One crucial piece of evidence kept secret for nearly a decade was a red notebook found in Dustin's car at the crime scene. It contained detailed notes allegedly written by Dustin, describing a plan orchestrated by Tracy's ex-husband John to kill Tracy and Bert and stage it as a suicide. However, the police found the notebook suspicious, as Dustin was not known to keep diaries. The detailed knowledge of John's personal information in the notebook also seemed implausible, given that Dustin and John had no known connection. The police believed the notebook was a setup to frame John, with Tracy being the only one who stood to benefit from such a scheme. In 2009, a new district attorney took office in Sauk County and immediately organized a team to reopen the case. The first thing they needed to determine was whether Tracy knew about the existence of that notebook. After Tracy called the police, they arrived at the scene within minutes and subsequently took the notebook into custody as a highly confidential item never disclosed to the public. Therefore, neither the public nor Tracy should have known about the notebook's existence. However, when the police questioned one of Tracy's close friends, they learned that over the years, Tracy had frequently complained to her about the police having the notebook that could incriminate her ex-husband John, but not taking any action, which enraged her. This proved that Tracy not only knew about the notebook's existence, but also likely participated in forging its contents. Forensic experts, after analyzing the photos from the scene and Dustin's injuries, reached a new conclusion. The 3 shots to the back of Dustin's head were fired while he was lying face down on the ground, which clearly exceeded the bounds of self-defense and was outright murder. Additionally, there were no signs of forced entry on Tracy's front door, nor was there evidence that Dustin was armed when he entered the house. The doctor who treated Tracy at the time also confirmed that the red marks on her neck were not caused by being strangled with a rope as she claimed, but rather by frequent friction. Based on this new evidence, in 2011, the police arrested the then 45-year-old Tracy and charged her with first-degree murder. In court, the prosecutor reconstructed the sequence of events based on the evidence. That evening, Tracy called Dustin over to help with something. Once he entered, Tracy threatened him with a gun and made him write incriminating statements about John in a pre-prepared notebook. She then shot Dustin, placed the notebook in his car, staged the scene, and called the police. To ensure Dustin was dead, Tracy even shot him again while he was lying on the ground before the police arrived. Although the defense attorney had Tracy's eldest son, Bert, testify, claiming that there was indeed a home invasion that night, the jury ultimately believed the prosecution's version of events. On November 7, 2011, the judge declared Tracy guilty of murdering Dustin, sentencing her to life imprisonment without parole. Tracy's subsequent 2 appeals both failed. However, if you think Tracy's story ended there, you would be underestimating her. After Tracy was imprisoned, her second husband, Michael, regained custody of his 2 biological children. He wanted to take the children back to Australia to escape the troubles in the United States. But when he applied for their passports, the US authorities denied the request because Tracy from prison had objected, claiming that taking the children to Australia would infringe on her parental rights to visit them. While preventing Michael from taking the children abroad, Tracy also became pen pals with a sex offender in prison. In one of her letters to him, she included photos of Michael and the 2 children, along with their social security numbers and other identifying information. With this information, it would be easy to find their residence. Although Tracy claimed she was merely sharing her family life with her pen pal, many believed her true intentions were much darker and more sinister. Eventually, in 2014, Michael won sole custody of the 2 children in court and successfully obtained their passports, bringing them back to Australia. He later said that he had impulsively left Australia for the US to meet an online friend, never expecting to stay for 18 years and nearly losing his life. Now, back in Australia, he hoped to finally lead a peaceful life. As for Tracy's eldest son, Bert, he continued to insist on his mother's innocence, believing she had only fired the gun to protect her family. To clear Tracy's name, he even launched an online petition, but over the span of 10 years, he only managed to gather 130 signatures. That's all for today's show. Once again, thank you very much for your support and encouragement. See you in the next episode.